When you disappear, she expects you to come back. She thinks you'll send another message, wait for another chance, and prove that she still has your attention. But what happens when you don't? What happens when your silence isn't anger, but confidence? Suddenly, the person who thought they had all the power is left wondering what changed. In this video, you'll discover why disappearing with dignity can completely shift the dynamic, why emotional control is your greatest strength, and how focusing on yourself makes you impossible to ignore. Stay until the end, because the biggest lesson isn't about making someone regret losing you. It's about becoming the kind of man who never loses himself again. Comment, I am the prize. Number 1. She expects your reaction. When someone suddenly becomes distant, your mind immediately searches for answers because silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes you want to fix something that may not even be broken. So you begin replaying conversations, checking your phone, wondering if one more message will somehow change everything. But this is the exact moment your emotional discipline is tested, because your first reaction often decides whether you keep your self-respect or slowly give it away piece by piece. A person who wants your attention without offering clarity benefits when you become anxious, confused, and completely focused on them instead of your own life. That is why your greatest advantage is not another perfect text or another explanation. Your greatest advantage is remaining calm when your emotions try to pull you into unnecessary action. Silence is not weakness when it comes from confidence. It is the decision to stop letting another person's behavior decide your mood, your focus, and your direction. Instead of spending hours wondering what she is thinking, spend that same time asking yourself why one person's attention has become more important than your own goals. That question changes everything, because it forces you to look inward instead of outward. A man who learns to control his reactions becomes difficult to manipulate because he no longer acts from panic. He acts from principle. He understands that respect cannot be negotiated through desperation, and that genuine interest never needs to be chased through constant reassurance. If someone values your presence, consistency will always reveal it better than endless words. This is why your first responsibility is protecting your peace instead of protecting someone else's opinion of you. Every hour you spend trying to earn uncertain attention is an hour stolen from building your future, improving your health, strengthening your character, and creating a life that gives you confidence without depending on anyone else's approval. The moment you stop reacting to every change in someone else's behavior, your thinking becomes clearer, your decisions become stronger, and your confidence begins to grow because it is no longer borrowed from another person's actions. Real strength is choosing patience when your emotions demand immediate action. Real strength is allowing time to reveal the truth instead of forcing an answer that may only create more confusion. The more you practice this, the less control anyone has over your emotional state, and that freedom becomes one of the greatest advantages you will ever develop, because your life finally begins to move according to your values instead of someone else's unpredictable behavior. Number 2. Silence takes away her control. Silence becomes powerful when it is not used as a tactic, but as a decision to protect your peace, because once you stop reacting to every mixed signal, every delayed reply, and every uncertain situation, something inside you begins to change. Your attention slowly returns to where it always belonged, which is your own life. Instead of wondering whether she will call, you begin asking what kind of future you are building. Instead of measuring your worth by someone else's interest, you begin measuring it by the promises you keep to yourself every single day. That shift is where lasting confidence begins, because confidence is not created by being chosen. It is created by becoming a man who knows his values even when nobody is watching. Many men spend years trying to convince the wrong person to appreciate them, while ignoring the simple truth that no amount of effort can replace genuine willingness from the other side. You cannot force consistency. You cannot negotiate respect. You cannot build trust alone. Accepting these realities is not giving up. It is refusing to waste your life fighting battles that never should have been yours. Every day you remain focused on your purpose instead of someone's uncertainty, your standards rise. You become more selective with your time, your energy, and your emotions. You stop trying to impress everyone because you finally understand that not everyone deserves access to your attention. This mindset changes every relationship you have because you no longer approach people from a place of fear. You approach them from a place of choice. If someone leaves, you continue building. If someone misunderstands you, you continue growing. If someone cannot recognize your value, you refuse to lower your standards simply to gain temporary approval. Life becomes lighter because your happiness is no longer attached to unpredictable outcomes. You wake up with direction instead of anxiety. You invest in your health, your work, your discipline, your friendships, and your future, because these are things that continue rewarding you long after temporary emotions disappear. The more you strengthen yourself in these areas, the less you need external validation to believe in your own worth. That is when your presence naturally carries more confidence, more stability, and more quiet strength than endless words ever could. People notice it because genuine self-control cannot be faked. It is built one decision at a time. Every time you choose wisdom over impulse, patience over panic, and purpose over distraction. Eventually, you realize the greatest victory was never changing someone else's mind. It was changing your own life. Number 3, she starts questioning herself. Your silence changes the situation because it removes the certainty she once had about how you would respond. When someone expects instant attention and endless availability, your decision to step back creates uncertainty, but your purpose is never to create confusion for its own sake. Your purpose is to stop living as though another person's choices control your entire emotional world. That is the difference between acting with discipline and acting from impulse. Instead of checking your phone every few minutes, you return your attention to your own life. You finish the work you have been delaying. You train your body even when you do not feel motivated. You learn new skills. You become dependable to yourself before trying to become important to someone else. While she wonders why your behavior has changed, your biggest responsibility is making sure your life keeps moving forward. If she reaches out because she genuinely wants to rebuild trust, her actions will become clear over time. If she only appears when she notices your attention fading, time will also expose that. You do not rush either outcome because patience protects you from making emotional decisions you later regret. Many men lose themselves by trying to solve problems that belong to someone else. They carry the weight of another person's inconsistency as though it is their responsibility to fix everything. It is not. You are responsible for your own conduct, your own words, your own standards, and your own future. That understanding gives you peace because it frees you from trying to control what cannot be controlled. Every day you choose self-respect over emotional impulse, you become steadier. Your confidence no longer rises and falls with a notification. It grows because you consistently keep promises to yourself. That quiet confidence changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you make decisions, and how you approach every relationship. Whether she questions her choices or not eventually becomes less important than the fact that you no longer question your own worth. That is the real transformation, because your value is no longer waiting for someone else to recognize it. It is built through discipline, consistency, and the life you create with your own hands. If you're ready to build that kind of unshakable character, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men is linked in the comments, filled with timeless principles you can apply immediately to strengthen your mindset, protect your peace, and transform the way you approach relationships. And it's now also available as an audiobook, so you can listen while driving, working out, jogging, or going through your daily routine, knowing this life-changing wisdom is yours forever whenever you need it. And if you want to go even deeper, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint course for men is launching in the coming weeks, so comment Blueprint below to get early access and take the next step toward becoming the kind of man whose confidence, discipline, and self-respect no longer depend on anyone else's choices. Number 4. She tries to get your attention. Sometimes distance is followed by renewed attention, and when that happens, your greatest advantage is remaining calm instead of becoming carried away by emotion. A single message does not erase months of inconsistency. A brief conversation does not automatically rebuild trust. This is where many men abandon the progress they have worked so hard to achieve because excitement replaces clear thinking. Instead of slowing down and observing actions over time, they immediately return to old habits, hoping everything has changed overnight. Real change is never measured by one conversation. It is measured by consistent behavior repeated over time. That is why you remain patient. You listen more than you speak. You watch actions instead of relying only on promises. You refuse to ignore behavior that once caused you unnecessary stress simply because attention has returned. This is not about pride. It is about wisdom. You finally understand that protecting your peace is more valuable than winning temporary approval. Your standards are no longer negotiable because they were built through difficult lessons. You no longer apologize for expecting honesty, respect, and consistency because these are not unreasonable expectations. They are the foundation of every healthy relationship. If someone truly wants a place in your life, they will demonstrate it through reliable actions instead of expecting endless chances without meaningful change. At the same time, you refuse to become bitter. You do not carry anger into every new relationship. You simply become more aware of what deserves your time and what does not. That awareness becomes one of your greatest strengths because it allows you to make decisions with a clear mind instead of reacting from loneliness or fear. As your focus remains on your purpose, your health, your work, your family, and your personal growth, your confidence becomes rooted in something that cannot easily be shaken. You discover that the greatest reward was never convincing someone to stay. The greatest reward was becoming a man whose peace, discipline, and direction remain steady, regardless of who comes into or leaves his life. Number 5. Your value becomes clear. Everything begins to change when your attention returns to the one place where it always creates the greatest return, your own life. For a long time, you may believe your value depends on whether someone chooses you, replies quickly, stays interested, or gives you the reassurance you keep searching for, but that belief quietly places your confidence in another person's hands. The day you stop measuring yourself that way is the day your life starts moving in a different direction. You begin waking up with purpose instead of waiting for a notification to decide your mood. You invest in your health because your body carries you through every challenge you will ever face. You become serious about your work because financial stability creates freedom that no one can take away. You sharpen your mind because clear thinking protects you from emotional decisions that often lead to regret. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes another brick in the foundation of your confidence. That confidence is no longer loud or desperate. It becomes steady, calm, and reliable. People notice it because genuine self-respect changes the way you speak, the way you walk, and the way you respond under pressure. You stop explaining yourself to everyone because you understand that your actions communicate far more than endless words. You stop trying to convince people to appreciate you because appreciation that must be forced rarely lasts. Instead, you focus on becoming someone whose character speaks before he does. Difficult situations no longer shake your direction because your purpose is bigger than temporary disappointment. Even when life does not go the way you planned, you refuse to abandon your standards. You remind yourself that another person's choices belong to them, while your conduct belongs to you. That simple mindset creates remarkable peace because you stop carrying burdens that were never yours to begin with. As the weeks pass, you begin noticing something unexpected. You laugh more easily. You think more clearly. You become more present with family, friends, and meaningful work. Opportunities appear because your energy is no longer trapped inside endless overthinking. Instead of asking why someone failed to recognize your worth, you become busy creating a life that naturally reflects it. That is where real confidence grows. It grows through repeated action, quiet discipline, and the willingness to improve yourself every single day without needing constant recognition. Eventually you realize the greatest achievement was never proving your value to another person. It was finally recognizing it yourself and refusing to settle for anything that repeatedly costs you your peace. Number 6. You become emotionally strong. Emotional strength is built in ordinary moments, not dramatic ones. It grows every time you choose patience instead of impulse, every time you refuse to let temporary emotions decide permanent actions, and every time you remember that your peace deserves protection. There will always be situations that tempt you to react immediately. There will always be uncertainty, mixed signals, unanswered questions, and moments when your mind wants instant clarity. Instead of allowing those moments to control you, you slow down and ask yourself a better question. Does this decision move my life forward, or does it pull me back into the same cycle I promised myself I would leave behind? That single question becomes a powerful guide because it shifts your attention from emotion to purpose. You begin understanding that discipline is not about suppressing your emotions. It is about refusing to let them become your master. You acknowledge disappointment without allowing it to define your identity. You experience loneliness without allowing it to destroy your standards. You accept that not every relationship will last, but you also recognize that every experience can teach you something valuable if you approach it with honesty and humility. Instead of becoming bitter, you become wiser. Instead of expecting perfection from others, you become careful about who earns your trust. You stop giving unlimited access to people who repeatedly bring confusion into your life. Your boundaries become stronger because they are built on experience rather than fear. As this way of living becomes part of your character, every area of your life benefits. You become more dependable at work because you remain calm under pressure. Your friendships improve because you value honesty over appearances. Your family notices the change because your reactions become measured instead of impulsive. You carry yourself with quiet certainty because your confidence comes from within rather than from constant approval. Over time, you discover that the strongest version of yourself is not the one who wins every argument or receives attention from everyone around him. It is the one who remains faithful to his principles regardless of what others choose to do. That kind of strength cannot be borrowed, bought or given by someone else. It is earned through daily discipline, honest self-examination, and the decision to become a man whose peace, purpose and character remain steady through every season of life. Number 7. You become impossible to replace. Your greatest transformation begins the moment your identity no longer depends on who stays and who leaves, because that is when your attention finally returns to the one person you have complete responsibility for, yourself. For too long, it is easy to believe that winning someone back is the goal, but with time, you discover that the real victory is becoming someone who never abandons his own values just to keep another person comfortable. That realization changes the way you approach every relationship, because you stop asking, "How do I make someone choose me?" and start asking, "Does this relationship bring peace, honesty, and mutual respect into my life?" That single question protects you from repeating painful patterns, because it reminds you that your standards matter just as much as your emotions. If she walks away without honesty or consistency, you do not spend months trying to decode every action or every silence. You accept that another person's behavior belongs to them, while your character belongs to you. That acceptance is not weakness. It is one of the strongest decisions you can make, because it frees you from carrying burdens that were never yours. Instead of allowing disappointment to become your identity, you use it as fuel to become stronger, wiser, healthier, and more disciplined than you were yesterday. You wake up with purpose because your future deserves your attention more than your past. You train your body because strength builds confidence that cannot be taken away by someone's opinion. You sharpen your skills because your career creates opportunities that remain long after temporary emotions disappear. You protect your finances because freedom gives you choices. You surround yourself with people who bring honesty instead of confusion, encouragement instead of constant uncertainty, and loyalty instead of endless inconsistency. Slowly, your life begins to reflect the standards you have chosen instead of the emotions you once allowed to control you. That is when something remarkable happens. You stop searching for validation because you have built a life that already gives you a deep sense of purpose. Conversations become calmer because you no longer argue to prove your worth. Decisions become clearer because you are no longer driven by fear of being alone. Your confidence becomes quiet, steady, and genuine because it is supported by daily discipline rather than temporary attention. If she returns one day, you no longer see her through desperation or fantasy. You see her clearly, with patience and discernment, evaluating whether her actions match her words instead of allowing hope to overrule good judgment. If she does not return, your direction remains exactly the same, because your happiness was never meant to depend on one person's choices. You continue building, learning, growing, and becoming a man whose peace is protected by his principles. That is why you become impossible to replace. It is not because you create mystery or because you play emotional games. It is because you develop qualities that cannot be copied overnight: integrity, discipline, resilience, emotional control, consistency, and purpose. Those qualities influence every part of your life. They strengthen your relationships, improve your work, deepen your friendships, and give you confidence that remains steady even during difficult seasons. Years from now, the greatest reward will not be whether someone regrets walking away. The greatest reward will be looking at your life and knowing that one painful chapter became the reason you refused to settle for less than respect, honesty, and genuine commitment. That is the mindset that changes everything. That is how disappointment becomes growth. That is how uncertainty becomes clarity. That is how temporary pain becomes lasting strength. And that is how you become the kind of man who never loses himself again, because your peace is no longer something another person can give you or take away. It is something you build every single day through your decisions, your discipline, and your commitment to living with quiet confidence, regardless of who chooses to walk beside you. Your life changes the moment you stop waiting for someone else to choose your worth and start building the discipline, peace, and confidence that no one can take away. So if you're ready for that journey, comment Blueprint, like this video, and subscribe to help more men discover these timeless principles before they waste years repeating the same painful patterns. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men is linked in the comments, filled with timeless principles you can apply immediately. It's now available as an audiobook, so you can listen while driving, jogging, exercising, or during your daily routine, and once it's yours, you'll always have access to this life-changing knowledge whenever you need it. Too many men are encouraged to look for quick fixes instead of building lasting character, but you're choosing a different path, and that's why I'm also creating the Stoic Relationship Blueprint course, built from more than 2,000 years of timeless principles that have stood the test of time, and will help you apply them to your life and relationships. It launches in just a few weeks, so comment Blueprint now to get early access.